That's funny right there. Shaking frantically with what looked like a wire running from his waist to the electric coffee pot he had in his hand. It seemed that he was being electrocuted. So, intending to jolt him away from the deadly current, she whacked him with a plank that had been left by the back door, breaking his arm in two places. She found out that up until that moment, he had been happily listening to his iPod. Man, what a way to start your day off. That would be a bad lick. The captain of the ship looked into the dark night and saw faint lights in the distance. Immediately, he told his signal man to send the message. Alter your course 10 degrees south. Promptly, a return message was received. Alter your course 10 degrees to the north. The captain was angered. His command had been ignored. So he sent a second message. Alter your course 10 degrees south. I am the captain. Soon another message was received. Alter your course 10 degrees north. I am Seaman Third Class Jones. Immediately the captain sent a third message, knowing the fear it would invoke. Alter your course 10 degrees south. I am a battleship. Then the reply came. Alter your course 10 degrees north. I am the lighthouse. I want you guys to watch this video. If you grab lights. You use God as a vending machine. Sometimes we do. I've been known to do that myself. When we decide we might need a little pick-me-up, we put 35 cents in and push the Mountain Dew God. You know, it help us get picked up and kind of give us an extra charge for the day. Then temptation comes. Things happen. Life happens. And then we fall away. And then we might be really thirsty and really need that quenching feeling that only God can give us. And we push the button on there that's water. Who knows, maybe one day you're looking for that little Hawaiian tropical, I don't remember what they said Jace had on. What was that, sarong? I say it's so wrong, but that's what he had on last week if you watched it. We'll figure that light up here in a minute. But maybe you need that Hawaiian punch type feeling that God can give you if you're just really feeling down. So you push that white button. Get a little mixed feeling there. Never could stomach that stuff. But anyway. Today I want to talk to you. I want to look at Christ's invitation to Peter to follow him. Because each one of us have, whether you've been here since we started this in the basement with 18 people, or you've started this year when we had more than that. Sometimes we forget that call. Or we just get lax. I think pops up to $1.25 now in the machine, right? All I worry about is coffee. If it ain't the coffee, I don't need it. But we buy that $1.25 drink that picks us up. But many of us do that with Jesus. Life's going good. How many of you think about it? If life's going perfect, just like I asked you a couple weeks ago, if you got to have what you thanked God for this morning when you got out of bed, what would you have left today, right now? Would you have anything? Or did you thank God this morning when your feet hit the floor about everything He'd given you? I got some different looks out there in the crowd today. They're like, ooh, sorry, husband. Sorry, house. Guess we're going to be sleeping out in a tent. Well, I didn't thank Him for our tent that's in that closet, so we ain't got that. Sorry, wife. I love you, but I didn't thank the Lord for you this morning, so there goes my Harley. I didn't have to walk to church. That was a blessing. Forget about that stuff. We take stuff for granted. We take Jesus for granted. We don't follow what He's asked us to do so many times. But there's about 5 stages I want to go through this morning that you might find yourself like Peter did. At one of those invitations to follow into a deeper place in service. Some of you saying, uh-oh, he's going to start asking about the kids' church. Or uh-oh, he's going to say something about dropping money in that bucket in the back. No, I just want to talk about service. We're going to let God convict your heart. All I'm going to do is talk about it this morning. Y'all do what you want to, because when I go out and eat today, I'm going to be happy. Happy, happy, happy. I love them guys. But those invitations to follow his service. There may be some of you today that's teetering. Anybody ever teetered on what God was asking you to do? A couple months ago, I was supposed to, somebody in the back of the church was sitting in the back, and I was supposed to go back there and have them pray with me. I didn't do it. I knew God was telling me to do it. If y'all want to know what it feels like standing up in front of 150, 200, whatever, come take my spot. It's hard to do. It's not easy. I still get that queasy, warm and fuzzy feeling when I get up here in front of you guys, because it's not old hat. What we're talking about today is not old hat. I don't take that for granted. It's God's word. But sometimes I've been known to not listen to what he says. That's just indigestion. How could it be? You didn't eat nothing this morning, stupid. Well, maybe the coffee I drank this morning, whoever made it today, maybe it's just that. No. You know when God's telling you to do something. He's not telling me, he's telling you. That's what we're going to look at today. As I share these things, imagine yourself riding down the road of life. Will you be gutsy and throw caution to the wind and abandon all? I want you to think about that. Not literally, Smitty. But I want to read Luke 5, start at verse 1 and go through verse 11. And then we're going to look at these real quick. It says, one day as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds passed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. How could nets get dirty? Can you explain? I've pondered that, and I just hadn't figured out how something holy is going to get dirty. Sea salt. There you go. They were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, now go out where it is deeper. Let down your nets to catch some fish. Master, Simon replied, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. Anybody ever done that? Lord, I've prayed and prayed and prayed and nothing's happened. I went to them and talked to them yesterday and they still don't want to talk to me. Ever done that? But Lord, I do my best at work and they still don't watch. Go out where it is deeper and let down your nets and catch the fish. Master, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. I'm thinking that he had a heart change here. But if you say so. Anybody ever done that? You got to have that. You got to tell him what you're thinking. Well, okay. I'll let the nets down again. And this time their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat. And soon the boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm too much of a sinner to be around you." For he was awestruck by the number of fish he had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the son of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. Now, I'm just thinking out loud. But these guys got to be thinking about, well, what are we going to eat when we just let everything go? What are we going to tell the bank? I mean, we got these astronomical mortgages on these boats, and we're fixing to just leave them docked up. I'd be thinking, well, wait a minute, let me get some guy to steal fish and tell him where to make the payment, and then we'll go. But how many of you today, God's laid something on your heart? Fixing to get right down close to you. God's laid something on your heart, and you've been making excuses for the last year. It's kind of like what happens on New Year's Day. What happens on New Year's? I mean, everybody's having a good time. I'm going to quit eating, lose weight. Yeah, right. I'm gonna quit smoking. I'm going to quit going and buying lottery tickets. I'm going to quit shopping so much. This year, we're going to save some money. Yeah, right. And it lasts a few months, and then you quit. But God's laid something on your heart, and you failed. Well, I can't start halfway in the middle of the year, because then it'll look like I didn't listen to him. Lord, we'll start January. How about May 1st? How about May 1st? Everyone, and I don't know what God's been speaking to you about. Well, maybe a few of you. But God's speaking to each one of your hearts. Y'all enjoy. How many enjoy coming to Crosspointe? I know I do. How many of you do something every week to help Crosspointe survive? Not very many hands. God's laid something on your heart that he wants you to do. Maybe it's as easy as sending a card out or looking over at the seat beside you that's empty and saying, "Hey, we missed you this week." Whatever it is. Move. You got to move. Let's look at the first one real quick, and I'm trying to hurry. We'll be done by 1, I promise. Disinterest. According to the Gospel of John, Peter met Jesus the day after Jesus was baptized. But there was this little thing that he seen. There was a little indication that he stayed with him for any length of time. I think that after Peter met Jesus, he spent time with him. He went back home and went back to work. Now, whatever happened, Jesus has come back into Peter's life. You know, Luke, he liked to write about everything. So Luke wrote that as Jesus taught the people, they crowded him so bad that he was teaching out here by the banks of the water. The Bible doesn't say how large the crowd was, but it was large enough to press on him. And as he was teaching, what are the fishermen doing? What do you reckon the fishermen are doing while he's teaching? They're out in the water by their boats washing their nets. Go ahead, Jesus, I'm listening. How many of you mow your yard with your iPod? Come on. There we go. How many ride your motorcycle with your iPod? You ain't supposed to, so quit it. If you can't hear what's going on, don't cram something in your ear. Oh, I didn't know you was going to go around me. I was listening to my music. I didn't hear your horn. Yeah. Kept on working. I don't think that Peter and the others were any different. But they're disinterested. I mean, Jesus was on the bank talking, and they're out there washing their nets. I want to think it's kind of like somebody that might be looking at the internet right now, or fiddling with your phone. But Pastor, I got to text this person. I mean, it's life or death. We'll go visit them at the hospital when church is over with. Keith, we're going to have to play our song again. You know, the song up there, shut your cell phone off. They were disinterested because they got work to do. They got bills to pay, food to buy, money to make. Anybody catching a drift? They was just like me and you. Life happens. What does disinterest look like? What does disinterest look like? It looks like me and you. It has many faces, but it reveals itself the same way. There's always something more important to do. There's always something better to do. Following Christ. That's a pretty good one. Doing what he says, accepting the invitation to follow him, to live for his glory. Now the crowd pressed upon Jesus. Were they interested? Jesus knows the hearts of all men. I wonder why Jesus didn't call any of them. I wonder why he didn't call the crowd. Because obviously if there are a crowd standing in front of him, they're interested in what he's saying. They got some kind of interest. Maybe they wanted to sign up for a free lunch. They knew it was the bike blessing, and it's free, it's for me. Food. Food draws anybody. I mean, if I fire that smoker up, tell a few people that we're cooking brisket, it'll be on. See, there's a few of you. Whoa, what'd he say? Cooking. I'm here. Right, Kyle? Kyle said, you cook brisket, and I'm there. I'll ask off from work. Maybe they was fixing to sign up for a meal. But Jesus is looking for people who will abandon all for his sake to follow him. Evidently, he didn't find any in the crowd. Isn't that amazing? If Jesus was standing right here, instead of looking over us like an ant farm, watching us mess up, you know, I think about the ant farm every day. So, I hope I didn't hurt their feelings. If he was standing right here, would he know your heart? I mean, if Jesus was standing right here, you know how many people would say, I don't got time to help with the bike blessing? There might be two. I don't have time to come help them clean the church. How many appreciate a clean church? How many's told Pat and Drina and the ones that help clean, thank you lately? I like to use the clean bathroom. Jesus is looking for people that will abandon all. How about the multitudes that's filling churches? How about everybody that's in a church today, all across Connersville? How many do you think that are really there because they're interested in Him? We may press into this room. You may enjoy laughing at some of my corny jokes, listening to our awesome band play. But are you really ready? Because you guys, this summer is going to be huge. September is going to be the biggest rally Crosspointe has ever put on. We're having to step out in faith, saying we're going to have the money to put it on. How many's ready to do what God's called us to do? There's a handful in here, but we need more. We need 2 sheets of people that's going to help the 4th and 2 sheets of people that's going to help the 11th. Will we have it? We're trying to reach people. It takes help. How many's interested in going that extra mile? Well, Pastor, that's what we pay you to do. No. My job is to keep you guys busy. My job is to have a lot of fun. Stand right beside you and serve. Really? How many people's really ready to abandon all and follow Him? Most times the answer is no. Most aren't. Maybe just not interested. How about doubt? How many of you had doubt? How many of you had it this week? About something. Looking around, he decided to preach from the bow of a boat. That's pretty neat. What would y'all say if I said, hey, we're going to meet at Brookville next Sunday, and I'm going to get on this pontoon, and I'm going to stand out there and preach from it? I'd be all in. We got internet service out there. I can't see what I'm doing here. I'm about to fall over. Can't swim. But he's on the boat. And of course, it was no accident that the Lord chose this boat. Do you think so? It's kind of like the donkey we talked about, the colt. It was no accident that he used that one. Because if you'll study in the Bible, everything he done was for a purpose. When I was born, he knew one day where I was going to be. Lordy mercy. He knew you guys were going to be here. And he knew the lives he was going to be able to touch. Because some of you out here and me and others are willing to go that extra mile. He saw things that Peter didn't even see. So, putting up clean nets. So so that the Lord might continue his teaching. In verse 4, then says that Jesus told Peter to launch out into the deep water so that they could haul fish in. That's not just a mess of fish. That's a big mess of fish. Now look at what Peter's response was. Master, we've worked hard all night and caught nothing. Can you imagine what he was going through his head? Maybe there's a few people in here. I've served the Lord for 20 years and I'm still in the same place I was in. I've done everything he's told me to do and I can't figure out why it ain't happening for me. You might be saying, hey, go back out there. Do it again. But Lord, come on, I'm going to look like a dummy. I already done this once and it didn't work. People saw me. He's saying, do it again. Well, Peter's probably thinking, now bear with me. Peter's probably thinking, what do you know about stuff? You're just a carpenter. I'm the fisherman. You hammer nails and saw wood, and I go out and fish. How's that work? If I told some of you guys that are carpenters how to do something, y'all would laugh at me. If I went back there and told Keith how to run that computer, he'd say, hey, you need to stick with your iPad, Jack. You just stick with it. I'll handle this here. You think Peter felt any different? I mean, he'd been working all night. How many of you get real testy if you stayed up all night? Amen. I don't want around Tracy when she stayed up all night. They've been working all night. They knew the lake better than anyone there, and this preacher's telling them how to fish. So you can hear Peter's doubt in his head. Okay, I'll go back out there. But he did have to tell him, we've been there all night, but I'll go back out. Now listen, this ain't just about fish. How many times have we thought we knew better than God? We got the answer. I got this, Lord. Anybody ever done that? Am I just the only one? I got this. I know better. Been there, done that, and have the t-shirt. It doesn't say stupid on it for nothing. I've been down that road. I know it won't work. Whether it's your marriage, raising your kids, your finances, maybe a relationship at work, or something. What God says. You can't love your enemies. I tried that one time and it just got worse. You can't forgive people that hurt you. They'll take advantage of it. You can't lay down your life for a woman. She'll run right over you. Don't give them a reason. I'm not going to claim that on my income tax return. They get enough money. Nobody laughed at that one. You can't be honest and make it in business. That's a good way to starve. I can't tithe off of what I make. Last time I tried that, I came up short on all my bills. I can't surrender to God. his call in my life, I just don't think it would work. Now, that one right there, I can tell you, I tried that one. My wife tried to convince me that one. I'm not a preacher's wife. What makes you think I'm a preacher? It didn't work. Here I am. There's 1,000 ways to express our doubt. But just as the Lord engaged Peter that day by stretching him, there's people in this room he's trying to stretch. There's people in this room that he's trying to stretch, and you're saying, no, I can do that. That's not my call. That was directed at somebody. I don't know how to do that. Some of you, he's telling you to launch out in the deep. And while everything in you wants to say that you've worked all night and it hadn't been successful, why not just say, hey, I'll let down my nets. I'll let down my guard. You know what somebody told me? You want to hear a story? Good, you want to hear one? When I started, before we started the church, that same time that my uncle looked across the table while I was eating brisket and about made me choke on it, and he said, God's grooming your wife to be a pastor's wife. This was before we come home and started the church. He about brisket. I about choked on it.
I hate it when I go blank. Anyway, I went plumb blank. That brisket done run it for me. Sorry about that. Number 3. We'll go on. Okay, I remember now. My aunt. I'm telling you, it's hard to. I mean, I got 100 and whatever looking at me going, what's next? Gee, Christmas. Anyways, my aunt, she set me down. And I'm like, I'm not a pastor. I'm certainly not a preacher. I can't do it. She said, well, let me tell you something. Now, this is just to help you guys out, because I know if everybody in here done what they were supposed to do and done exactly what God's telling you to do, we would have a tweens group for my daughter and the rest of the kids in here, and we would have 30 people back there ready to help with the nursery, which I think we got 1. We would have help. We'd have people lined up to help at our rides. We'd have help. Here's what she told me. She said, think of it this way. What if you don't step out and do what God's telling you to do? Well, I don't know, it'd be a lot less stress. She said, but if you step out and do what God's telling you to do, you will never look back and question. You'll never look back and wonder, what if? She said, but if you step out and do what God's leading you to do, and it doesn't work, it's okay. Not saying that there ain't been plenty of times when I've been backed up against the wall and I can't remember what I'm supposed to say in front of you guys, and I'm ready to quit. But my wife and my Jesus has always been there. Or maybe one of you guys that said, hey, we need you to come over and pray with us because we're down in the dumps. You know how many times I've went over to pray with you when I've been at my lowest point, ready to give up, and y'all have called and said, hey, we need to pray with you. Hey, I couldn't even imagine. I wouldn't go to church if there wasn't Crosspointe. When I've been on the floor, you guys didn't know it.
I was ready to give up. You said, hey, Padre, I got to thank you for what you've done. I've been there. I've been burnt out. I've been where I wanted to give up. I can't quit. You guys that are sitting there and God's dealing with you to do something in this church and you're saying, I'm too busy. There's something he's wanting you to do. You need to come see us so you can do it. Maybe we need to help you, tweak you just a little bit to get you in the direction you need to go. But we need help. Every one of us is wanting to go to a new building, right? What's it take to do that? Money. Who likes to not talk about it? Me. Who needs to be obedient? All of us. All of us. Now, am I hitting you over the head with the Bible? Absolutely not. Because if God doesn't let us go somewhere, we're going to be in this building for another 10 years. But if we're obedient and we pray. My wife's been wanting to walk around that building up there, that Herb Lumber building for Kmart. I'm directing her to Herb Lumber. She's wanted to walk around that building for the last 6 months. She says, Chris, we need to go walk around it. I'm going, I know, but stuff happens when you pray and walk around stuff. She's like, well, what's the matter? I'm scared. There's people here today need to get with my wife and start walking around the building. We can't do this by ourselves. We need a team, and our team's right here. And you need a little pick-me-up and a little kick in the tail so that you can go walk around the building, or you can go sign up for the nursery, or you can help with the tweens group, or you can start coming to bike night and helping us talk to people and love on people, or you can call somebody that you know is having a hard time because that's your gift. Everybody's got a gift in this room. There's only a few using them. That's not no way to get somebody to step up. Why isn't it? I had to be prodded. Belief. Got off that track just a little bit, didn't I? Verse 6 is amazing. When they had done this, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their nets break. They caught so many fish that their boat was ready to sink. When Peter put down his net, he was thinking to himself that was a waste of time, and he'd rather been getting rest for the next night. He was on night shift. How many of you work night shift and Sunday morning is just a drag to get here? But when you get here, you're glad you're here. But it wasn't too long before he changed his mind. Whatever he thought about Jesus when they cast off was completely different now. Here's one dangerous and amazing thing. Some of you here today may be thinking that if the Lord would do the same great thing like that in your life, would you believe? John 6:29 says Jesus was speaking to the crowd when he told them to put their faith in him. In verse 30 it says the people said, "What sign will you show us then that we may see and believe? What will you do?" Jesus basically told them that he had come from heaven. He was the bread of life, the living water. He told them about the sign of his coming. but they still wouldn't believe. God's done things in your life, and you still have a hard time getting off your haunches and helping Him. How many of you prayed for a job in the last 2 years? How many of you God give you that job? How many of you has blessed the Lord's give back to Him because He give you the job and your bills are paid and life is good and things are going good? You don't have to raise your hand. But you hadn't done it yet. Maybe God's blessed you in your work. Now you ought to bless Him in His, because He give you that job. He's the one that's blessed you with your family and with your health and with your church family. Let's look at John 12:35 through 37. I'm almost done. I can smell the Mexican. Or the donkey. Jesus replied, "My light will shine for you just a little longer. Walk in the light while you can, so the darkness will not overtake you. Those who walk in the darkness cannot see where they are going. Put your trust in the light while there is still time. Then you will become children of the light." After saying these things, Jesus went away and was hidden from them. But despite all the miraculous signs Jesus had done, most of the people still did not believe in Him. Sounds like us sometimes. God works and we don't see. Repentance. Verse 8 says that Peter fell on his knees and what appears to have been an embracing of the legs of Jesus. "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man." He repented. He saw Jesus Christ was not a carpenter, not as a teacher, not as a preacher, not as a smart rabbi, not a wannabe fisherman, but as the Lord. You need to remember this morning that when you see Jesus for who He really is, you're going to see yourselves for who you really are. What you're going to see is not going to be something to be proud of. When you see Jesus as Lord, you're going to be humbled in His presence. Number 5, surrender. When the Lord finally had Peter where Peter needed to be, He extended the invitation. "Fear not, for now on you're going to catch men." And when they had brought their ships to land, they forsook all. They give it all up to follow Him. I want the worship band to come up. And I want to go back to that song that they sang just a little bit ago. Talking about the light. Talking about Jesus working through us. I don't care how many stages you have gone through. Whether all of them, the last 3, or maybe God's dealing on the last one today. Maybe you tell me today that you don't know what God's purpose in your life is. I want to tell you one thing. You've been called to live for His honor and His glory. There's something today that God's impressed on your heart and you ain't moved yet. Or maybe you've moved. Maybe you do something in the church and God's saying, "Hey, it's time to do a little more." If I knew what God wanted me to do, I would surrender. Sometimes we need to shut up and listen. Not give Him our 2 cents about not being able to do something. Just surrender. He wants to be the commander of your life. Maybe you're tired and burnt out. It's time to surrender anyways. Surrender anyway. Maybe it don't make no sense. I didn't like raising my own kids. Why would I work with somebody else's? You got the wrong person, Pastor. What nets are you holding on today that's keeping you from stepping out? That's keeping you from laying them down and moving to the next level? If you remember, we've talked about a bunch of levels the last few weeks, few months. God's calling us to be a people that reaches Connorsville. And it's time for us to drop our nets and follow Him. As they play this morning, every eye's closed, heads bowed. Before we open up this altar and they sing that song, I got one question. Maybe there's somebody here today that doesn't know Jesus as their Savior.